Hello everyone, welcome back to General Chemistry Laboratory. Today we're talking about our first virtual lab called Laboratorian SI, which stands for System of International Units. So today we will be discussing unit conversions, both between English and metric system, based on which international system is built, as well as conversions within English system of units. First couple of important announcements. This, of course, is the laboratory manual that each of you is supposed to have. You're supposed to receive an email from me. This is also in Verba, telling you how to order it directly from the publisher. This is a custom lab manual specifically designed for Chemistry 1240 at BGSU. The price is fairly reasonable, I think, and I picked materials in here for you to use literally pretty much every single page. So hopefully everyone has a lab manual like this and you're able to use it. In case if you've had any issues ordering or receiving the lab manual, several important handouts to which I will be referring to today will be posted on Canvas for you under modules. So you'll be able to access these materials that way for first week or two. So the title is Laboratorian SI, and what I have here is an explanation of the assignment that you will have to submit on Canvas for this particular experiment, for this particular dry virtual lab. I'd like to point out that all assignments are expected to be submitted digitally on Canvas. By completing work on paper, it's important for you to still write out solutions to problems and things like that, and then you can take a picture of your work with your phone and scan it. It has to be in a PDF format, converted to PDF format. There are various apps available for your phone for you to be able to do that, including ChemScan, and then you can upload it to Canvas. So your assignment will consist of several things. It's basically a report sheet for dry lab and SI, but before we talk about that, I'd like to point out that because this is a custom lab manual, one issue that you will encounter is the fact that on each page there are sort of 2 page numbers right here, so hopefully you can see. And so in order to avoid confusion, one thing you have to remember, which I also wrote on the board here, is that we will exclusively throughout this entire semester we'll be using page numbers on the very bottom. So the one that's closest to the bottom of the page is the one I'm going to be referring to from now on. So hopefully everyone is able to get used to it fairly quickly. So your assignment consists first of reading, and there are several chapters in the lab manual that I'd like you to read. Pages 51 through 58 refer to the dry lab itself, where you will see some examples of how unit conversions should be set up using unit cancellation method. There's also several other important chapters in the beginning of the lab manual that I'd like you to familiarize yourselves with. First one is Lab Safety and Guidelines, that's pages 9 through 12 of this lab manual. Second is Data Documentation, that's pages 13 through 16. And then there's also Data Analysis on pages 17 through 24. As you can see, some reading to do, but not very many pages. And you will also have to submit a report for Dry Lab 1, that's on pages 55 through 58. And this basically breaks this down, explaining which portions of this report from each page you're supposed to complete. I will come back to this and we'll talk a little bit more about specifically part E that has to do with actual problems or unit conversions that you'll have to master. I'd like to point out there will be a quiz the following week after you complete all this to make sure you are well versed in unit conversions. And so next we're going to talk about this Dry Lab 1. So if you're watching this video, hopefully you have the book with you, and if you don't, you're able to pull out the handout for Lab 1 or Dry Lab 1, Lab and SI off of Canvas. So I'd like you to find page 51. That's our first page of this Dry Lab. It looks like this, with a bunch of little lab weights on the picture here, and a couple of things I would like to point out. So if you turn the page then to page 53, you will see a table. It's table D11, right on top of page 53. It lists prefixes used in International System of Units to designate either fraction of a unit or multiple of a unit. I'd like to emphasize that all these prefixes and their meanings and being able to use these prefixes in calculations would be something you would be expected to be familiar with, and the memorization of these prefixes is expected. I'm going to show you some examples of how these prefixes are used shortly. And then there are some examples, of course, that are helpful in setting up a problem, converting between prefixes. And then there are more examples on page 54, which show how unit cancellation method is applied. And then there is table D12 on the bottom of the page that is basically an abbreviated version of Appendix A, which I'm referring you to for your homework, showing several important quantities and respective conversion units used to convert between English and metric system. I'd like to point out that you are not expected to memorize conversion factors used to convert between English and metric system. The only thing you are responsible for memorizing would be the prefixes. So now let's go ahead and consider some examples of use of these prefixes in calculations and how you would set it up and give you some practice. We're going to do this in the second video.